All right, guys. So, RockCrawlinJeeps. Last week we fixed all our oil leaks, or at least all that we could. And this week we're going to start it off at the junkyard. So we're here. We're going to try and grab a couple of parts for some Jeeps and some other odds and ends for our other vehicles and projects that we can find. So let's go find some parts.
What you doing, Zach?
Taking apart a WJ intake manifold.
And why are we upgrading?
Well, the real reason we're upgrading is because ours was spray painted orange. The other reasons for this upgrade is just a little bit better performance, just because they refined this in 99 for the WJ. We've found our condenser, appears to be in great shape. We've also found our air conditioner lines, so now I'm just pulling some stuff out of the way so we can get everything pulled out of here nice and easy without destroying too much stuff. So most junkyards, and I thought this was a thing, so we're not going to name where we're at or anything like that, but this thing was completely charged. So when I broke this line, it may not have been completely charged with Freon, but it definitely still had pressure, so somebody's left the cores in these lines. But that's actually a good thing for us, because now we know that this condenser we've got doesn't have any holes and that everything's going to work just fine. This is a cool little like junkyard find that you can do with these ZJs. Is a lot of these V8s come with this tranny cooler. Anybody that's wheeled a lot, especially in the hot summers, you'll notice you get a power steering whine because the fluid's getting super hot and then it's aerating. So your power steering pump starts to whine, and that causes failures, and then you don't have power steering, and that sucks. Well, what you can do is you can take these V8 ZJ tranny coolers, plumb them in line on the low pressure side of your steering box, and boom, you have a power steering cooler. You also have added fluid capacity, and these things are stupid cheap and readily available in the junkyard. This is what we've been after all morning. The other stuff was kind of just a happy bonus. This is our AC condenser that was missing out of our purple ZJ. So the lines on ours were actually cut right here and like right here. So unfortunately we needed all the lines. We've proven that this thing had pressure, so we know that it's going to hold. So now we're going to go home and get this installed and get Purple ZJ's engine compartment gasket remake kind of redo finished.
So we finished up our junkyard haul for today. So we got the AC condenser and lines. We picked up a small oil cooler for me. I'm going to use that for power steering. We got the upgraded 99 intake and a new valve cover. The radiator unboxed. So I'm going to use that as my cleaning surface and get started on this nasty valve cover we picked up from the junkyard today. I believe it was like 10 bucks. So a little bit of brake clean, some scrubbing, and she'll be good as new.
The beauty of pulling all of this apart is, I don't know, like 99% of it's a 10 millimeter. So we're just going to go through here, get most of this out of the way. Then we'll go ahead and pull that intake manifold off of there, and we'll get our new one cleaned up and put on. So for now, I'm just going to tear into this thing. Normally I'd say to like label your connectors. In this case, there's only a couple, and we're not really going to worry about it. I've also, ahead of time, gone ahead and taken a photo of everything. So that's going to give us more locations off of this stuff than labeling them, really. It's just a matter of what you want to do. If you want to label them, some painter's tape and a Sharpie, you'll get that done. I prefer just a quick photo on something that's this simple, only has a couple of connectors, and generally speaking, they'll only plug in one way. So there's our fuel rail. Got it popped out of the way. Now we're going to go inspect our O-rings, see if we can clean up our injectors a little bit. We'll get this all cleaned up, and then we're going to put our new manifold on. Went underneath, got our intake manifold disconnected, did all of our bolts up top. We got our fuel rail out of the way. And I will say that having the axles and all of that removed definitely makes this process a lot easier than, say, doing it with the axles and everything else like that in the way. there's a lot to fight down there. But we've gotten everything unhooked, so now we just have our last little bits to get disconnected. We mentioned this earlier that, we were upgrading to the 99 Plus 4.0 manifold. Well, here's why. I live at elevation, this sucks. So this is our old intake manifold, and you can see there's not really any like main air chamber. It's all just individual runners. Well, in 99, they went to a main chamber and then did our runners. This style flows much better than this. This is a bit restrictive. This is a much better flowing option. So I think this was like, what, 15, 20 bucks maybe at the Junkyard? Yeah, so for like 15, 20 bucks, we do two things. We get rid of a disgustingly orange intake manifold, which is the main reason we're doing this. Don't be fooled, it's not performance, it's a 4-liter. It'll never be fast. However, we can get rid of the orange and we can update and grab a little bit more power. Is it anything crazy? No, but why replace with the same old one when we can replace it and upgrade at the same time? So we're gonna go ahead and pull this out. And we're gonna give this a look for any cracks or any kinds of damage that we can see. Let's hold on to that stud back there. So this is the joyous bit about a 4-liter. The intake and the exhaust are one gasket. So we've got a new one right there hanging out. Now we're going to go over here and we're going to check this out and see if there's any damage to our exhaust manifold. The 4-liter manifolds are kind of known for cracking. It's kind of a known issue, so we want to go ahead and give that an inspection. The other thing we're going to do is go ahead and clean up this side of the block now that everything's out of the way. And if you look right here, she's cracked. So we're going to go ahead and look for an aftermarket replacement here. The reason we're not going to go ahead to go to the junkyard and grab another one of these is they're all prone to failure. This is a known common problem on 4-liter Jeeps. We're not going to bother welding it. We're not going to bother trying to fix it. We're going to go ahead and get one. My green Jeep, I want to say it's Doug Thorley is the company that I have. Nope, it's not Doug Thorley, it's Gibson. I have a Gibson header on mine because, well, this issue happened on it. So we're going to go ahead and try and find one, and we'll get this replaced probably next week. Unfortunately, with finding a crack in that thing can't go back on today. So, if we were going to put it back on today, I was just going to go ahead and get it as clean as we could and toss it back on. Being that we're not going to get it put back on today, I'll take it to work, put it in the parts cleaner, and really kind of give it a good scrubbing. But we are going to do that valve cover gasket right there. So we're going to go over here and remove this hideous orange valve cover and replace it with that other one that we got that's nice and pretty. So we're giving this motor a proper tear down and rebuild. I mean, basically the only thing we're not doing is getting into the connecting rods and the real big internal stuff, but most everything else is going to be nice, new, and replaced. I did take a couple photos of this prior to. That way we can keep track of what our hardware is doing, because there's some of it that's like a little longer and studded, so you can hold different components and accessories, and some of it that's not. All right, well, that came out easier than expected. So, there's that final little pesky bolt. And now this hideous orange valve cover can go in the trash where it belongs. First we're going to take this little vacuum PCV line off, but after that she goes in the trash. We're getting these grommets installed on our new valve cover gasket here. So it's just kind of a little, what I've found works best is just to kind of push them down in and then kind of spin a little bit. That lets everything get seated. So I'm just going to get this done and toss this thing on there. Unfortunate things today, but we'll eventually get this thing done. It's like all projects, they take about 6 months longer than you think they will. all the grommets are installed. Now we're going to go ahead and set this back into place. It's just that easy. Now we'll grab some hardware and toss it in. All right, so valve cover is installed. We got to do our PCVs, do a final wipe down on it, but looks a lot better than that orange one ever did. So happy to see this kind of coming together. We've still got quite a bit to do. Got to do our AC condenser, radiator, fan belt. What else we got to do? Oil filter adapter O-ring, and then we got to put our exhaust and intake and everything back on. So quite a long list left to go, but I felt like we made pretty good progress today. Going to the junkyard, getting all of our parts. And like every project, you know, when you get going on it, you find problems. So, you know, we found a cracked exhaust manifold that we didn't plan on, but we'll get it figured out this week and we'll have a part ready to go for next weekend. All right, guys. Well, that wraps it up for us today. We got our valve cover back on. We put our heater core lines back in. Still got to put the clamp back on, but now we are trying to locate an aftermarket header so we don't have to go back to an OEM style because they're prone to cracking, as we saw. So we're going to try and get those parts this week, see what we can't get coming to us, and if we can get it all to us in time, we'll install that next week. But as always, we appreciate you watching. Please like, comment, and most definitely subscribe. So we have a whole lot more to come on this, a whole lot more information, and then we're going to take it out wheeling, and that ought to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned, and we hope to see you next week.